She walked into the restaurant early in the morning, tying her apron with practiced hands, ready to start another long day. The smell of fresh coffee and baked bread filled the air, comforting in a way that made her feel she was exactly where she needed to be, even if the world outside was harsh and unfair. She had learned early in life that work was not just a way to earn money, but a way to survive and protect those she loved. The restaurant was already buzzing with activity. Chefs shouted orders, pots clanged, and the chatter of early customers filled the space. She moved quickly, her feet barely making a sound on the polished floor, greeting familiar faces with a smile, taking orders, and carrying trays with the balance of someone who had done this for years. Despite the chaos, she maintained a calm and collected presence, a trait that made her both efficient and admired by some, though unnoticed by others. Among the regular customers were 5 wealthy men who came every week. They dressed sharply, spoke loudly, and carried themselves with a sense of entitlement. They were known to everyone in the restaurant for their arrogance, but she tried to ignore them. Their laughter was often at her expense, and their words could cut deeper than any knife. Today, as she approached their table with drinks, she felt that familiar tight knot in her stomach. "Careful with the tray," one of them said with a smirk. "Wouldn't want to spill anything on that cheap uniform of yours." She nodded politely, hiding the irritation that flickered in her chest. Their comments were sharp, cruel in ways that felt personal, though she knew it was more about their need to feel superior than anything else. She set down the drinks carefully, keeping her hands steady and her face calm. Her heart pounded, but her voice remained steady. "Here are your drinks, sir," she said with a smile, keeping her tone polite and professional. They laughed, leaning back in their chairs, enjoying the moment at her expense. She walked away, straightening her back, refusing to let their cruelty define her. She had learned early that reacting in anger only gave them the satisfaction they sought. Her pride, quiet as it was, demanded that she endure and continue, no matter how difficult the day became. Throughout the morning, the restaurant became a blur of orders and movements. She dashed between tables, refilled coffee cups, and wiped down counters. Each task she completed with care, because she knew the importance of her role. The other staff members respected her, though some pitied her. They could see the exhaustion behind her eyes, the way she carried the weight of life on her shoulders with grace and dignity. During a brief pause, she wiped the sweat from her forehead and glanced at the 5 men again. They were now making jokes about her, mimicking her movements and whispering to each other with sneers. It would have been easy to feel defeated, to retreat into herself and allow their words to sting. But she reminded herself that their opinions were meaningless in the grand scheme of life. She focused on her work, the people she served, and the family waiting for her earnings at home. One of the men called her over, pointing at a small spill on the floor, though she knew it was deliberate. She approached with caution, bending slightly to clean it up while keeping her face neutral. "Don't take too long, or maybe you'll ruin someone's meal," another one joked, laughing loudly. She ignored him, her movements deliberate and precise. Each gesture, each motion was a small act of defiance. She refused to let their words break her spirit. Inside, she felt a quiet strength growing, a sense that she was more than what they could see. They could mock her uniform, her manners, even her voice, but they could not touch her integrity, her intelligence, or the kindness she carried. A customer at another table watched her work and smiled softly. "She's amazing," they whispered to a friend. "So graceful, even when they treat her badly." She heard this and allowed herself a small smile, a reminder that not everyone saw her through the lens of ridicule. There were people who appreciated her, who understood her efforts, even if just for a moment. The morning went on like this, each encounter with the 5 men a test of patience. They criticized, teased, and found fault with every minor detail, yet she endured. By noon, her feet ached, and her arms felt heavy from carrying trays, but she remained vigilant, refusing to let their behavior affect her professionalism. She had faced worse outside the walls of the restaurant, in a life that demanded resilience every single day. During a quiet moment, she allowed herself a breath and thought about her family, their struggles, their hopes, Their reliance on her gave her strength. She imagined the smiles of her younger siblings when she brought home their favorite treats, the relief in her parents' eyes when she paid a bill on time, the small joys that made her sacrifices worthwhile. These thoughts steeled her resolve, reminding her that enduring the cruelty of a few wealthy men was nothing compared to the life she worked tirelessly to support. Her colleagues admired her silently. They noticed the way she kept her head high, the way she moved efficiently and gracefully, and the way she refused to let her tormentors steal her dignity. She had become more than a waitress. She was a symbol of quiet courage, someone who faced daily injustice with patience and intelligence. By the end of the morning, she had navigated the chaos, the cruel jokes, and the endless orders. The 5 men were still seated, laughing and enjoying themselves, unaware that her composure was not weakness but strength. She cleared their table once more, her movements smooth, her voice calm. "Thank you for coming," she said politely, maintaining a professional tone. They barely acknowledged her, too absorbed in their own amusement to notice her quiet triumph. As she walked away, she allowed herself a moment of reflection. Each day was a challenge, each encounter a test, but she was learning, growing, and preparing for a future where she could rise above these petty cruelties. The restaurant, with all its noise, chaos, and occasional cruelty, was also a place of growth, resilience, and silent victories. She returned to her station, ready for the next wave of customers, the next round of challenges. Her spirit remained unbroken, her patience unwavering. Even in the face of mockery and torment, she had found a way to maintain her dignity, her strength, and her humanity. The day was far from over, but she faced it with the quiet confidence of someone who knew her worth and refused to let anyone diminish it. The morning rush ended, and she finally had a moment to catch her breath. She leaned against the counter, sipping a glass of water, feeling the ache in her muscles but also the satisfaction of having endured. The 5 men were gone, for now, leaving behind only echoes of their laughter. She smiled softly to herself, knowing that their behavior could not touch her true self. She was strong, capable, and full of quiet power that no amount of mockery could ever erase. Her eyes drifted to the security camera in the corner of the restaurant, a silent observer of all that transpired. Little did she know that this small device would one day capture a moment that would reveal not only the truth of that morning but also the reality of who she really was. For now, she simply focused on her work, her family, and the inner strength that carried her through each challenging day, one step at a time. The afternoon brought a different rhythm to the restaurant. The morning rush had passed, leaving only a steady flow of customers who spoke softly or worked quietly on laptops. The waitress moved through the tables, her steps light but deliberate. She carried plates and glasses with the careful precision that had become second nature to her. Every gesture, every motion was practiced, but it was never mechanical. There was a quiet grace to her work, one that made her more than just a server. She was a guardian of comfort for the people who sat in her section. As she delivered orders, she paid attention to details that others overlooked. A chair slightly out of place, a spilled drop of water, a menu left open. These things she corrected silently, ensuring that the restaurant remained a place of order and calm. Her eyes, sharp and observant, caught small moments of difficulty for both customers and staff. She helped a tired cook reach for a tray that was too high, offered a gentle smile to a shy customer who had trouble ordering, and quietly encouraged her coworkers when they struggled with the constant demands of the job. Meanwhile, the 5 wealthy men returned after a short break. Their presence, as always, brought a wave of tension. They lounged in their usual corner, speaking loudly and gesturing with exaggerated motions, drawing the attention of the staff. The waitress approached, maintaining her calm demeanor, offering menus and taking drink orders. She noticed the little smirks and whispered comments, the way they subtly tried to intimidate her. Yet she remained composed, knowing that reacting emotionally would only fuel their amusement. While serving them, she observed their behavior carefully. She noticed inconsistencies and small gestures that revealed their arrogance more than any words could. They were careless with their drinks, rough with the menus, and impatient with the staff. She cataloged these observations in her mind, not out of malice, but because she understood that every person's true nature often showed in unguarded moments. Even in her role as a waitress, she had developed the skill of reading people, understanding that appearances often hid truth. The afternoon continued with small challenges. A child spilled juice near one of the tables, and she moved quickly to clean it up before it caused a bigger mess. The 5 men laughed, whispering about how clumsy the staff seemed. She smiled politely at them but ignored their taunts internally, focusing instead on the safety and comfort of the customers around her. Her mind was always active, considering how best to manage the restaurant, assist her coworkers, and ensure that everyone, including herself, maintained dignity amidst the chaos. During a brief pause, she approached the back office to deliver an updated order list. The manager, a kind and understanding person, gave her a nod of appreciation. "You handle that section well," he said softly. She smiled, knowing that her efforts, though often unnoticed by the difficult customers, were valued by those who truly mattered. It was moments like these that reminded her why she endured the harshness of others with quiet strength. Back on the floor, a regular customer approached her with a question about the menu. She answered patiently, explaining the options and making suggestions based on their preferences. Even as she navigated the demands of her work, she remained aware of her own thoughts, reflecting on how much she had learned in this environment. The restaurant, with its chaos and challenges, had taught her resilience, patience, and the ability to read situations and people with clarity. She had become perceptive in ways that went far beyond simple survival. As the afternoon progressed, the 5 men began to escalate their behavior. They intentionally knocked a small plate off the table, aiming to provoke a reaction. The waitress moved quickly, picking it up with grace and placing a clean plate in its place. She did not flinch or respond with irritation. Her calmness, though subtle, sent a message stronger than any words. She would not be easily rattled. The other staff watched, silently admiring her composure. They could see that her patience was not passive. It was active strength, a quiet assertion of self-respect. In a moment of solitude, she paused near the kitchen door, taking a deep breath. Her uniform was slightly damp with sweat, and her hands ached from carrying trays, yet she felt an inner calm. She thought about the future, the life she wanted for herself and her family. These reflections reminded her that each challenge she faced was a stepping stone, each act of endurance a building block for a life she was determined to shape with her own hands. The 5 men continued their mockery, unaware that their actions were being silently recorded by the security cameras installed throughout the restaurant. The waitress, focused on her work, did not notice the subtle presence of these devices, but they would soon play a crucial role in revealing the truth. For now, she concentrated on serving food, assisting coworkers, and keeping the restaurant a welcoming place for everyone who came through the doors. During a particularly busy moment, a tray slipped slightly from her hands as she navigated a tight corner. She caught it just in time, preventing a spill. The 5 men snickered, attempting to embarrass her further. She smiled politely, feeling a quiet surge of defiance inside. Every small challenge they created was an opportunity to prove her strength, not to them, but to herself and to those who truly valued integrity and hard work. Her attention to detail did not go unnoticed. A new customer, who had come in for a late lunch, watched her handle multiple orders with efficiency and grace. They whispered to their companion, noting the patience and skill required to manage such a demanding environment. She smiled at them, feeling a small but genuine sense of accomplishment. It was moments like these that reinforced her belief in quiet perseverance and the power of maintaining dignity in the face of adversity. As the afternoon wore on, she began to notice the subtle ways in which the 5 men attempted to intimidate not just her, but the entire staff. Their arrogance and sense of entitlement created tension, yet she navigated it with care, ensuring that her colleagues remained focused and safe. Her presence was stabilizing, a quiet anchor in the sea of stress that surrounded them. In one moment, a young busboy dropped a tray of utensils, causing a small clatter. The men laughed, but she moved quickly to help him, picking up the utensils and showing him the proper way to carry the tray without embarrassment. She whispered encouragement, her tone gentle but firm, teaching not just skill but confidence. It was in these small acts of guidance that her true strength showed, not just her ability to endure, but her willingness to lift others up even while under pressure. The afternoon continued to flow, and the restaurant seemed to settle into a rhythm. The five men's attention eventually shifted elsewhere, allowing her a brief moment of relief. She leaned against the counter, stretching her aching muscles, and reflected on the day so far. Each challenge, each insult, each moment of tension had been met with patience and grace. She was growing stronger, more resilient, and more aware of her own power in ways that those around her might not immediately see. She thought about the security cameras again, not realizing how significant they would soon become. They quietly recorded everything: the cruelty, the composure, the intelligence, and the courage that went unnoticed by the tormentors themselves. Each movement, each response, was documented without judgment, waiting for the day when truth would finally be revealed. By the end of the afternoon, she had navigated every difficulty, assisted every customer, and supported every colleague. The five men, still present, had not succeeded in breaking her spirit. She had endured with quiet strength, demonstrating patience, intelligence, and resilience. The other staff admired her silently, and the few customers who noticed were inspired by her calm composure and gentle authority. As she prepared for the evening shift, she felt a quiet pride in her endurance. She had faced ridicule and cruelty, yet she remained strong and dignified. Her mind was sharp, her heart steady, and her spirit unbroken. The day had tested her, and she had passed with grace. Little did she know that the moments captured by the security cameras would soon reveal her true character, and that her strength, patience, and intelligence would be recognized in ways she had never imagined. She took a deep breath, ready to face the next challenge, the next wave of customers, and the next encounter with the five men. Her determination was unwavering. She was not just surviving. She was preparing for a moment when the world would see the real her. A woman of quiet power, moral strength, and unwavering dignity, capable of facing cruelty with intelligence and courage. The evening brought a new wave of energy to the restaurant. Lights glowed warmly, the clatter of dishes echoed through the space, and the air smelled of sizzling food. She adjusted her apron and took a deep breath, bracing herself for the busy hours ahead. Despite the long day, she felt a quiet determination, knowing that each customer she served was a test of her patience, resilience, and professionalism. The five wealthy men returned once again, each of them carrying the same arrogance as before. Their laughter and loud voices immediately drew attention. She felt the familiar tight knot of anxiety, but she pushed it aside, reminding herself that she was in control of her own actions. She walked to their table with steady steps, a polite smile on her face, and took their order with calm efficiency. As she moved away, one of the men deliberately placed a small stack of napkins on the edge of the table, knowing they would fall if nudged. He gave a sly glance to his friends, expecting her to react in frustration. She noticed the deliberate act, her sharp eyes catching the subtle movement. She carefully adjusted the napkins without making a scene, keeping her calm expression and leaving the men momentarily puzzled by her composure. The atmosphere grew more tense as the men decided to escalate their behavior. One of them intentionally spilled a glass of water near the corner where she had just walked, attempting to startle her. She remained steady, bending slightly to wipe the spill while offering a polite smile to nearby customers who had noticed. Her calmness, like a shield, deflected the humiliation they tried to impose. While handling the incident, she kept track of everything happening around her. Every gesture, every word, every subtle act of cruelty was recorded in her mind, like a silent witness. She understood that moments of arrogance and entitlement often revealed more than words could. Though she bore their mockery with patience, she also recognized the importance of remembering these actions, knowing that the truth always had a way of surfacing. During a brief lull, she checked on her colleagues. A new waitress seemed nervous and unsure of how to handle a difficult customer. She moved to the side, offering gentle guidance and practical tips, all while keeping an eye on the 5 men. She encouraged the young waitress to remain calm and focused, teaching her through example how to navigate challenges without losing dignity. It was in these quiet mentoring moments that her strength shone brightest, unseen by the men who tried to humiliate her. The evening progressed, and the 5 men's antics became bolder. They leaned back in their chairs, knocking over a small dish and laughing as it fell to the floor. She quickly cleaned it up, maintaining composure. Her movements were precise, her calm voice soft but authoritative as she asked if any other customer needed assistance. Her control of the situation subtly reminded everyone present that chaos did not dictate her actions. At one point, a customer accidentally tripped near their table, spilling a small plate of food. The men laughed loudly, pointing at the scene as if mocking her ability to manage the restaurant. She rushed over with steady hands, helping the customer and ensuring that the mess was cleaned quickly. Her care and attention prevented embarrassment for the customer, showing her dedication to her role and her moral character. Even when others sought to undermine her, she moved through the restaurant, handling every challenge with quiet efficiency. Her eyes constantly scanned the space, aware of every potential problem. A tray of food teetered on the edge of a table, a napkin fluttered onto the floor, a chair was slightly misaligned. She corrected each issue without hesitation, keeping the environment orderly and welcoming. Her actions were unnoticed by some but deeply appreciated by those who observed closely. The 5 men decided to create a larger spectacle. One of them intentionally knocked a plate toward her path, pretending it was an accident, hoping she would spill drinks or react angrily. She caught the plate smoothly, resetting it on the tray without dropping a single item. The subtle act of mastery over the situation impressed the other staff, who were silently rooting for her. Though the men tried to provoke humiliation, they only revealed their own lack of control. At another table, a child began to cry loudly, and a customer spilled a drink in the commotion. She quickly intervened, soothing the child and cleaning the spill while keeping her expression composed. Even in these small chaotic moments, her ability to remain calm and organized stood out. The staff and customers saw her patience, her ability to act with intelligence and empathy, and her quiet determination to maintain order and dignity. As she served dessert to the 5 men, they whispered among themselves, plotting another attempt to embarrass her. One of them deliberately dropped a small utensil near her feet, hoping she would flinch or apologize awkwardly. She picked it up calmly, placing it back on the table and said nothing more. Her composure, unbroken and steady, was like a silent declaration. She would not allow cruelty to define her day or her character. She walked to the back to refill trays, catching a glimpse of the security cameras in the corner. She had noticed them before but had not paid much attention, focusing instead on her work. These devices, unassuming and silent, were quietly capturing every action in the restaurant, including the behavior of the 5 men and her responses. Little did she know how important this footage would soon become. A young busboy approached her nervously, unsure of how to handle a spill at a nearby table. She gently guided him through the proper steps, demonstrating care and patience. She reminded him that maintaining calm under pressure was more valuable than reacting with fear or anger. In these small teaching moments, she not only helped her colleagues, but also reinforced her own strength and resilience. The 5 men continued to act arrogantly, but she remained focused. Her mind was sharp, her awareness heightened, and her movements fluid. She served each table with care, never letting their mockery shake her focus or professionalism. Her dedication to her work and the people around her, even in the face of deliberate cruelty, was remarkable. Suddenly, one of the men reached for a tray as if to pull it from her hands, hoping to cause a spill. She anticipated the action, shifting slightly and catching the tray effortlessly. The other customers noticed the graceful motion and whispered quietly to each other, impressed by her composure. The 5 men, meanwhile, were momentarily stunned, unable to understand why their tactics failed. Her calmness had neutralized their attempts, turning their cruelty into a display of their own foolishness. By late evening, the restaurant had quieted down, and she finally had a moment to breathe. She reflected on the day, the challenges she had faced, and the patience she had maintained. Each incident with the 5 men had tested her, but she had handled every situation with intelligence, grace, and dignity. Her quiet endurance had not only preserved her pride but also inspired those around her. She thought about the security cameras again, wondering if anyone ever reviewed the footage. They had been witnesses to her struggles, her composure, and the behavior of the 5 men. She did not realize it, but these recordings were silently collecting evidence that would eventually reveal the truth of her character and the cruelty she endured. Her colleagues admired her silently. They had witnessed her patience, her skill, and her unwavering dedication to the restaurant and its customers. She had become a role model without even trying, showing that strength could be quiet, that courage could be calm, and that dignity could be maintained even when tested by others' arrogance. As the evening came to a close, she cleaned the last tables, straightened chairs, and prepared for the night staff to take over. Her muscles ached, her feet were sore, but her spirit was strong. She had faced deliberate cruelty, mockery, and intimidation, yet she had maintained her integrity and composure throughout the day. Each act of patience and resilience reinforced her quiet power, a force unseen by the 5 men but noticed by those who truly mattered. She took one last look around the restaurant, a sense of quiet satisfaction settling over her. The 5 men had left, their arrogance intact, but they had failed to break her. She was not just surviving their torment. She was thriving in her composure, intelligence, and moral strength. Her mind was clear, her heart steady, and her spirit unbroken. The day had tested her, and she had emerged stronger and wiser, ready for whatever challenges awaited tomorrow. The next day brought a new energy to the restaurant. Sunlight streamed through the windows, casting warm patterns across the tables. The waitress arrived early, tying her apron and taking a deep breath. Today, she knew, would be another long day, filled with the usual challenges. Yet, she felt a quiet sense of determination. Each day had strengthened her patience, sharpened her awareness, and deepened her resolve. She had learned that true character was revealed not in moments of ease, but in how one handled difficulty. As she moved through the restaurant, arranging tables and preparing for the morning crowd, she noticed the 5 wealthy men arriving again. Their presence brought a wave of tension, but she maintained her composure. She walked toward their table, carrying menus with careful precision, and greeted them with a polite smile. Their laughter echoed through the restaurant as they made crude jokes, their voices louder than necessary, hoping to draw attention. She approached with calm, responding to their comments politely, never showing irritation. She had long learned that their attempts to provoke her were empty exercises of power. Her mind remained clear, her actions deliberate, and her focus unwavering. She set down drinks, adjusted plates, and delivered orders efficiently, all while observing their behavior closely. She noted the subtle arrogance, the impatience, the smug satisfaction they took in mocking others. Meanwhile, the restaurant manager reviewed the security footage from the previous day. He had received complaints about the 5 men's behavior and wanted to understand exactly what had occurred. As he watched the video, he noticed everything: the men's arrogance, the deliberate attempts to humiliate the staff, and, most importantly, the waitress's remarkable composure. Every action she had taken to prevent accidents, assist colleagues, and maintain dignity was captured clearly on camera. Her grace under pressure stood in stark contrast to the men's reckless behavior. In the restaurant, the morning rush began. The waitress navigated the crowd with skill, serving coffee, refilling glasses, and managing the flow of orders. A customer dropped a utensil, a child cried, and a spill occurred simultaneously. She handled every incident calmly, ensuring no one was embarrassed or hurt. Her colleagues watched in admiration as she managed chaos with intelligence, patience, and quiet authority. The 5 men continued their mocking behavior, but she remained unshaken, fully aware that her actions were silently observed by the security cameras. As the morning progressed, one of the men deliberately knocked over a plate near her path. He expected a flustered reaction, but she responded with controlled precision, setting the plate upright and offering a polite smile. The act was subtle, almost unnoticed by the men themselves, yet it carried the weight of quiet defiance. The manager, reviewing the footage from the security system later, would see this moment as a clear demonstration of her intelligence and skill. During a brief lull, she helped a new staff member carry trays, offering guidance on how to handle difficult customers. Her voice was soft but confident, her tone encouraging. She taught not only the proper techniques for carrying trays and refilling tables but also the importance of remaining calm in the face of provocation. She reminded the new employee that true strength was not loud or aggressive. It was patient, thoughtful, and steadfast. These lessons, though small, reflected her moral character and leadership qualities. Meanwhile, the 5 men grew more frustrated as their attempts to embarrass her failed. They exchanged whispers and laughs, unaware that the security cameras had captured everything. Their arrogance and cruelty were documented in full detail, providing a silent record of their behavior. Every mocking gesture, every whispered insult, and every deliberate act of provocation was visible. The waitress's calm responses, her quick thinking, and her unbroken composure stood in stark contrast to the men's actions. At one point, a small accident occurred near their table. A glass teetered on the edge, and the men looked pleased, anticipating chaos. The waitress acted instantly, catching the glass and preventing it from falling. She apologized lightly to the customer nearby, maintaining her professional demeanor. The men's smug expressions faltered as they realized their plan had failed. They did not yet understand that their behavior was being recorded, and that their true selves were visible for all to see. The manager continued reviewing the footage, taking notes. He recognized the bravery and intelligence displayed by the waitress. Her composure under pressure, her ability to manage multiple tasks simultaneously, and her dedication to maintaining dignity in the face of cruelty were remarkable. He began to consider how to recognize her contributions formally, knowing that her actions deserved acknowledgement beyond casual praise. Back on the restaurant floor, the waitress moved efficiently among the tables. She noticed subtle mistakes or hazards and corrected them immediately. A chair slightly out of place, a napkin on the floor, a tray wobbling. All were handled swiftly and gracefully. Customers noticed her calm, composed presence, often commenting quietly to each other about how impressive she was. Her quiet strength had become evident to those who truly observed, and her dignity shone even in moments of stress. The 5 men, growing increasingly impatient, tried one last attempt to provoke her. They arranged plates and cups in an unstable stack, intending for them to fall as she passed. She approached, noticing the deliberate setup. With a gentle hand and careful movement, she stabilized the items, preventing any accident. Her quiet smile conveyed nothing but politeness, yet it carried a powerful message. She could not be shaken by arrogance or cruelty. The men, oblivious to the significance of her actions, continued to laugh, failing to see the true mastery she displayed. Later, when the manager presented the footage to the restaurant owner, they both were astonished. The contrast between the 5 men's arrogance and the waitress's grace was stark. Her intelligence, patience, and moral strength were undeniable. They realized that her calm and composed behavior had not only protected the restaurant from chaos, but had also created an environment where colleagues could work confidently, and customers could feel safe and respected. As the day progressed, word of her actions began to spread quietly among regular customers. They remarked on her professionalism, her patience, and her ability to handle difficult situations. Her reputation grew, not through self-promotion, but through consistent, visible acts of integrity and skill. She became a silent role model, demonstrating that true strength was found in calmness, intelligence, and moral courage. By evening, the 5 men left the restaurant, unaware of the record of their behavior. The waitress took a deep breath, feeling both relief and quiet pride. She had managed the day's challenges, handled deliberate cruelty, and maintained her dignity throughout. The security cameras had captured the truth, preserving a silent record of both the torment and her remarkable composure. She reflected on the day, thinking about the power of patience and quiet strength. Every insult, every act of cruelty, every attempt to humiliate her had been met with intelligence and grace. She had not only survived but had demonstrated her true character to those who mattered. The footage, though unseen by the 5 men, had ensured that the truth of her abilities and integrity would be recognized. As she prepared to leave, she glanced at the security camera again, feeling a strange sense of reassurance. Though she did not seek recognition or revenge, she understood that her actions had been witnessed in a way that could not be ignored. The cameras had captured not just the torment she endured, but also the courage, intelligence, and dignity she displayed in response. Her colleagues approached her quietly, offering smiles of admiration and gratitude. The young staff member she had guided earlier thanked her for the lessons and encouragement. These gestures, small yet meaningful, reinforced her belief in the importance of patience, empathy, and moral courage. She realized that strength was not measured by aggression or dominance but by the ability to act rightly and calmly in the face of adversity. The day ended with a sense of quiet triumph. She had faced deliberate harassment, maintained composure, supported her colleagues, and ensured the comfort and safety of customers. The security cameras had silently recorded her courage and the men's arrogance, preserving a record of the truth. Though the 5 men believed they had controlled the situation, the reality was far different. Her integrity and skill had prevailed. As she left the restaurant, the sun setting behind her, she felt a sense of calm satisfaction. She had endured cruelty with grace, demonstrated intelligence under pressure, and quietly proven her moral strength. The security cameras, though unnoticed by the tormentors, had witnessed the truth. One day, that truth would be revealed, showing the world the remarkable woman she truly was. For now, she walked home with her head held high, ready for whatever challenges tomorrow might bring, confident in her strength, dignity, and resilience. The following morning, the restaurant felt different. The air seemed lighter, and the staff moved with an unspoken sense of anticipation. News had begun to spread quietly about the remarkable composure and professionalism of the waitress, captured clearly on the security cameras. The footage, reviewed by management, revealed not just the acts of the 5 men but the true character of the young woman who had faced their cruelty with unwavering strength. She arrived early, tying her apron and taking a deep breath. Though she carried the exhaustion of the previous days, there was a subtle sense of pride within her. She had endured every insult, every mockery, and every attempt to embarrass her. Now, the truth of her character was finally recognized, though she had not sought recognition or reward. Her motivation had always been quiet strength, responsibility, and integrity, not fame or revenge. The 5 wealthy men entered the restaurant once again, unaware of the security footage and the attention it had drawn from the management. They carried themselves with the same arrogance, laughing and making crude remarks, expecting to continue their usual behavior. The waitress approached them with the same calm smile, prepared to serve, as if nothing had changed. She knew that appearances mattered less than actions, and her actions over the past days had already spoken louder than any words could. The manager approached her quietly, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. "I want to speak with you for a moment," he said. She followed him to a quiet corner, where he handed her a tablet showing the security footage. She watched as every act of the 5 men's cruelty played back, along with her own calm and measured responses. She noticed how every small gesture, every careful decision, and every act of patience she had displayed was captured clearly. Her quiet dignity shone through, contrasting starkly with the arrogance and carelessness of the men. The manager's eyes were filled with respect. "This is incredible," he said. "You handled everything with grace and intelligence. Not only did you protect the restaurant and its staff, but you also demonstrated a level of patience and composure that is rare. We want to recognize your efforts formally." She felt a warm rush of emotion, though she remained composed. Praise was unfamiliar, yet it carried a quiet satisfaction, a confirmation that her efforts had not gone unnoticed. Word spread quickly among the staff. Colleagues who had watched her silently endure the torment began to see the full picture, and their admiration deepened. They understood that her strength was not just in her actions but in her ability to maintain integrity under pressure. Even the newer employees, who had relied on her guidance during the previous days, now saw the depth of her resilience and the remarkable courage she displayed without complaint. The 5 men, meanwhile, began their usual attempts to create chaos, unaware that their behavior was already being addressed. One of them nudged a glass intentionally, while another whispered a mocking comment to a server. The waitress, however, continued to navigate the floor with composure, her calm demeanor unshaken. She delivered plates and refilled drinks, assisted a customer who had spilled a cup of coffee, and offered guidance to a young busboy trying to keep up with the demands. Her actions reflected strength, intelligence, and a quiet authority that required no aggression. The manager stepped in at a crucial moment. He approached the table where the 5 men sat, holding the tablet that displayed the footage. The men looked up, confused, then shocked as they realized their behavior had been recorded and reviewed. Their smug expressions faded as they watched the clear evidence of their arrogance and cruelty, juxtaposed against the waitress's unwavering composure. The room fell silent, and the other customers, who had noticed the commotion, looked on with curiosity and growing admiration for the young woman who had endured so much. The waitress remained at a distance, her calm expression betraying nothing but quiet dignity. She did not gloat, did not laugh, and did not show anger. Her strength lay in her ability to let the truth speak for itself. The footage revealed everything. Her patience, her intelligence, her careful attention to detail, and her moral courage. The 5 men, now exposed, were left to face the consequences of their actions. The contrast between their arrogance and her grace could not have been clearer. Management took swift action. The 5 men were asked to leave the restaurant and were informed that their behavior was unacceptable. The staff, witnessing the turnaround, felt a renewed sense of respect and security. The restaurant, once a place where fear and intimidation had lingered in the corners, now became a space where integrity and patience were recognized and valued. For the waitress, the recognition went beyond praise or rewards. She was offered opportunities to take on more responsibilities, to train new staff, and to contribute to improving the operations of the restaurant. These roles were not just promotions. They were acknowledgments of her skill, intelligence, and moral character. She accepted with humility, understanding that her journey of quiet perseverance had prepared her for these opportunities. Throughout the day, customers approached her to express their admiration. Some offered compliments on her professionalism. Others thanked her for the care she showed in managing small incidents that could have been embarrassing. Every gesture reinforced the lesson that true strength and integrity often remain hidden until the right moment reveals them. The young woman had not sought recognition, yet it had found her, a natural consequence of her consistent patience, intelligence, and moral courage. As the day drew to a close, she reflected on the journey she had endured. The 5 men had attempted to humiliate her, to test her patience, and to undermine her dignity. Yet, she had faced every challenge with calmness, grace, and intelligence. The security cameras, unnoticed by her tormentors, had captured the truth. Her quiet perseverance and inner strength had triumphed over arrogance and cruelty. Her colleagues surrounded her, offering congratulations and expressing their admiration. The young staff members she had guided earlier felt inspired by her example. She had not only defended her own dignity but had also elevated the morale and confidence of those around her. Her actions had created a ripple effect, proving that courage, patience, and integrity could influence more than just the immediate environment. The 5 men, now confronted with their behavior, left with a mix of embarrassment, anger, and disbelief. They had underestimated her strength and the power of quiet composure. Their arrogance, once a source of intimidation, had been exposed as shallow and weak. The contrast between their behavior and hers became a lasting lesson for all who witnessed it. True power is found not in wealth or aggression, but in integrity, intelligence, and moral courage. As she closed the restaurant for the day, she felt a deep sense of satisfaction. She had endured, she had persevered, and she had triumphed without ever compromising her values. Her actions had been noticed, respected, and rewarded, though she had never sought recognition. The experience had reinforced her belief in the importance of patience, intelligence, and quiet strength. Walking home in the soft evening light, she felt a sense of calm pride. The journey had been difficult, filled with challenges, cruelty, and tests of character. But she had emerged stronger, wiser, and more confident. She understood now, more than ever, that true strength is not measured by outward displays or loud victories, but by the ability to remain composed, thoughtful, and morally steadfast in the face of adversity. Her story, captured silently by the security cameras, had become a testament to the power of patience, courage, and integrity. She had shown that even in the most difficult circumstances, one could maintain dignity, influence others positively, and ultimately reveal the truth of their character. The restaurant, once a stage for ridicule and torment, had become a place where honesty, patience, and resilience were celebrated, and where the quiet strength of one remarkable woman had made all the difference.